Is Starbucks too woke? Missouri Attorney General files a lawsuit against anti-discrimination labor laws. Let's talk about it. What do you think?
I think we're talking about DEI.
What is DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Supposed to...
Another word for like affirmative action?
No, I'm not going to say that. And I think the whole purpose of DEI, I mean, if you really want to get into it, then let's get into it, right? Because the whole purpose of DEI, the reason why DEI is a thing, I'm not talking about why it's being talked about so much now, the whole purpose was so that historically marginalized groups were not getting passed over for jobs when they were equally qualified as the white guy next to them.
They were getting passed over for jobs.
Correct.
And
So
this was supposed to create a system that allows people to be equally evaluated
based on race, gender, rather than
race. But it's supposed to say, okay, if I've got me, right, and I'm standing next to a black woman, and we have equal qualifications. We are equally qualified for this job. These regulations, these corporate initiatives, they're supposed to say, if I'm the white guy, which I am, if anyone was questioning that, I'm the white guy, and I've got a black woman next to me, and we're both applying for the same position.
Yeah.
A black gay woman next to me, we're both applying for the same position.
Okay. Yep.
And I am qualified, and she is qualified. DEI is supposed to say, well, you know what? She is a member of multiple historically marginalized groups, and we want to make sure she either gets the position or is equally considered for the position. Because the truth is that historically, white men who are equally, or by the way, lesser qualified than people of marginalized groups would get hired over these marginalized groups, even when they were more qualified for these positions. Now, the question becomes, has that the whole purpose of DEI, has that come to fruition? Has it shifted? Has it said, well, you know what? I'm going to take the white guy who is well qualified for this position, and I'm going to hire a marginalized person who is less qualified for the position. And is that happening? And I think what a lot of people are saying is, yes, that's happening. Listen, I'm not so sure. I don't know. But I don't think DEI is some awful thing that the news is making it out to be right now. I think the purpose for what it was supposed to do to get these people who are just as qualified into positions of power, into well-paying jobs, is a right and righteous thing. But like a lot of right and righteous things, is it being abused? Is it being misused and misapplied?
Well, hold on a second. Before you chime in, we're talking about Starbucks here. We're not talking about a government agency.
Correct.
We're not talking about a state agency. We're not talking about a federal government agency. We're talking about a privately owned corporation, whether it's publicly traded or not. Right? So should DEI initiatives allow and determine the hiring of people that they choose, or should this be maybe more of a government structure to provide some sort of equality amongst all people? And again, white male versus non-white male, right? How do you evaluate, right? Do you hire the white male or do you hire the non-white male, right? How do you break that down? And if you have maybe 10,000 white male members of your business, do you hire one more, right? And again, I don't know what the percentage is and what you could force people to do or not do. We own a private business. Can you force us to hire someone who is of a different race or gender or beliefs or whatever the case may be? I think that's got to be more of a government-run agency that could pretty much, you could force that agenda.
Are you advocating for more government oversight, Josh?
No, I'm not. What I'm advocating essentially for is how do you? I'm just bringing it up. How do you find out how you want to hire somebody?
Very easily.
And obviously, skill and the quality of that person, I think, should be the number one thing.
Very easily. You hire based on merit. You hire based on skill. I don't know why in 2025 we still have to talk about color, marginalized groups. We're not living in the Stone Ages. We have evolved as people. We are based on merit. There's schooling, college degree, postgraduate degrees, etc. I want that person working for me. I don't care what group they come from. If they are skilled, I want them working for me. That's how every company should look at this. Not about let's check a box and let's check this box off, check that box off.
And the laws here are regarding Starbucks and the DEI related mandate that the Attorney General in Missouri is suing about.
The purpose of DEI when these things were started was say, okay, you can't hire the less qualified white guy because you don't like black people.
It wasn't.
And so your point of we're in 2025, fair, taken. but I don't think we're as evolved as you think we are. And I don't think that the people who hire in this country are as evolved as you think we are. And that when they've got their buddy vying for the job and Joe Schmo's got, 1 year of college and they've got black women with 3 master's degrees, that they're gonna hire Joe Schmo and not the black woman with 3 master's degrees. I think that happens all the time still.
Yeah,
and I think properly executed DEI is important and can be a thing, but like everything else, is it being misused and abused?
So the AG is suing based on Missouri Human Rights Act, which prohibit discrimination based on race, color, or national origin. So that's what the lawsuit is about. Anti-discrimination laws are being violated essentially by Starbucks. So how is this AG going to make this stick? How is this case going to be settled? Let's understand the legalities behind it. When the AG files a lawsuit against a corporation like Starbucks, how is this going to be litigated in court? What's your opinion on let's just say the defense side? You represent Starbucks. How are you going to defend this matter?
Well, there's policies in place. We're hiring based on merit, hiring based on skill. This is our applicants. We've had maybe 1 or 2 interviews. We like the person. Again, we're a company. We provide service by making drinks or serving food to our customers. You have to have a personality. You can have the best person down the list with the smartest skills, but if they can't say hello to the customer and put a smile on their face, you can't have them working for your company.
As defense counsel for Starbucks in this action, are you going to go through the statistics of how many people in your company are diverse to show, listen, I didn't violate anti-discrimination laws. Of course. Look at how many people fit this mold.
You want to disarm the allegations, and you do it one by one. You look at, all right, race, great. Let's look at how many people of color that we have working for us. Let's look at how many people of minorities that are here. Let's look at genders. What do we have, male, female working? And you do a statistic on there. And again, you may not have equal numbers. Just that's the way the cookie crumbles, essentially.
All right, Josh, you're Andrew Bailey. You're Missouri AG. Well, how are you prosecuting this?
Well, you're basically making a reverse discrimination argument, right? What you're saying, the Missouri AG is saying, Starbucks, you are not hiring enough white men, right, into these positions, and that your DEI, it's reverse discrimination. I mean, people make those arguments throughout the country right now, and I think if he looks at the laws and he can, like what Rich was saying, if he can take the statistics and show that there is you look at the makeup of your county, you look at the makeup of, how, the percentages of certain populations within your area. And if that area has an overwhelming, disproportionate versus, you're hiring disproportionately based upon what the area has, then I think that's how the AG is going to show that and how he's going to go after it, right?
But I'm a private corporation. Why can't I hire all women, all black, all gay? And whatever the case may be, why can't I do that?
You can, but
so why do I have to hire white males? I don't want to hire white males.
Because you have state and federal anti-discrimination laws in place. That's why. I mean, that's why, and it does cut both ways, right? And the question is just, what are the actual facts?
They're not telling you who you can hire. They're telling you have to go through a procedure to hire correctly and properly, and that's where I think we lose sight. Is these companies may, like Josh was saying earlier, you may have a buddy or somebody that they may lean on to want to give the job to that person over maybe somebody that's more qualified and skilled.
Right.
But if everybody's equally qualified and skilled, it's just a choice of what the company wants to do, and there shouldn't be anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think the main issue, or another main issue here, is based on what the actual job description actually is, right? So we mentioned the FAA and air traffic control people. There has to be certain training, right? There has to be some sort of level of understanding of what's going into this actual job description. Maybe pouring a cup of coffee at Starbucks requires zero intelligence and zero skill, and you could hire whoever you want, right? I'm not saying that's the case, but I think that based on the job description also will determine how you hire, and that shouldn't be based on race, religion, ethnicity, color, gender, whatever the case may be. That's got to be a merit-based type job. But something like Starbucks, again, you could hire anybody essentially and train them how to pour a cup of coffee and write your name on it and say, Venti Mocha coming up. You know what I'm saying? Again, I think the job description really determines on how this is going to play out. And I think the Attorney General is going to have his hands full here with this case. Just to circle back here, we're talking about DEI, a lawsuit in Missouri. It's going on against Starbucks. And, for somebody in a firm that takes on labor law disputes, wage and hour disputes, FMLA complaints of that nature, you have to understand that if you're out there and you are discriminated against, you may have rights protected by state or federal law. The FMLA laws, Family Medical Leave Act, right? Essentially saying that you could go take a break from work and you're protected federal and your job's got to be there when you return. So I think that there's a lot of legal labor law issues involved in these lawsuits. You know, we deal with a fair amount of them, not so much civil rights actions, but again, if you're pregnant and you're at work and you get fired for no reason whatsoever, you're essentially supposed to be afforded these rights and protections. You're supposed to be returned to your job. You know, and again, there's certain, I don't want to say guidelines, but there's certain fact patterns where you can be terminated or you can essentially feel as if you're discriminated on, but you might not be. So understanding your rights for federal and state is important. And Josh, I think you had some experiences about what you've dealt with corporations where there was some not DEI, but again, some DEI related issues.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a situation where, you know, if you're a company, if you're a law firm and you represent certain types of companies, you know, there are companies that create initiatives and regulations and say, well, if you're going to represent us firm, then you have to have a certain percentage of minority, you know, partners or attorneys or something like that. And I think that's a great thing, but I also think that it misses the mark a little bit and maybe pushes it too far, because you're losing the merit side of things, right? Where, you know, I don't want to lose a client because I don't have the right box checked, right, in my percentage of people there. Yeah. But again, then you've got that circular argument. Well, then are they afforded the same opportunities? Can they get to the same positions, you know, as the white guy from Central Jersey, you know? And I don't know the answer to that, right? I don't. But I think law firms and other types of companies who are providing services for larger companies sometimes are forced into positions where they have to make certain hirings not based on merit. That can be problematic. It can be beneficial and it can be problematic, and I'm certainly not smart enough to figure out the answers to all that, but it's
there's no perfect system at the end of the day, but we could try to go in good faith. We could try to not do reverse affirmative action or affirmative action, and we try to hire based on merit, like Josh was saying, because I think that's the way we need to be. But
ultimately, a lot of legal issues out there.
Interested to see what happens with Starbucks and everything.
Yeah, and whatever the DEI initiatives essentially are. So.